And welcome into the Open Mic Podcast. I'm Bobby Rosensky, your host here today, and a pleasure to be joined by the athletic director of the Charlotte 49ers, Mr. Mike Hill. Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you, and appreciate here over this next little bit. We'll talk all things Charlotte 49ers, whether that's on the field, on the court, whatever it may be. Of course, off the field as well for this team, and an opportunity here coming up in a little bit. Redshirt junior Deja Lawrence with us as well, as we'll talk some Charlotte 49er women's basketball, off to a strong start, the win over Wake Forest very recently. But Mike, you've had the newsletter about Open Mic that has been out there before, but now we go into the podcast world. But what's been the goal of what you've had here with this communication with the fan base here of the Charlotte 49ers?
Well, we have so much great stuff that's happening in our program and on our campus, and we talked about it strategically as a staff that we want to have an opportunity to share that good news with, with our fans, with our supporters, and really with the world. And so it gives us a chance on a regular, consistent basis to get that message out and to provide updates where we can. And to answer questions where we can, and because we're in a super dynamic industry right now and a lot of moving parts, and we're certainly not standing still here, and so we want to be able to share that good news with Niner Nation.
Yeah, I was thinking yesterday, I go, it's got to be an interesting time for you. But then I was like, isn't every day an interesting time for you? It could be June and maybe the academic year is over, but it's just nonstop, Mike, right now with what we have going on in college athletics.
It never slows down. I joke about it. It's kind of a circus right now. The stuff that we're dealing with. There's NCAA lawsuits. There's conference realignment. There's all sorts of stuff that we're navigating, right? But so much of it is good and exciting. And I've said this many times to our staff. We get paid to lead when it's difficult, not when it's easy. And so that's really the blessing that I have and we have is for this department is to try to navigate us through the most transformational time in the history of college athletics.
No doubt about that. And we'll try to do that here on this podcast, give it to you a few times throughout the year. For you now, over 5 years of athletic director of the Charlotte 49ers. I still remember where I was, I think, when Tom Whitestone let me know that you'd be the AD here for the Charlotte 49ers. But 5 years, people obviously know what's going on the field and stuff, but what would maybe Niner Nation not know about their athletic director, Mike Hill?
That's a great question. I don't know if I'm really that interested. One thing I would say is that, I've run 3 marathons, okay? And so I'm a retired marathoner. I'm not doing that again. It's really dumb. But no, it was an incredible experience to run 3 marathons. And I remember the first one that I ran was in Nashville, and afterwards I swore I would never run another one. And I had trained really hard for it, and it was difficult, but I did end up running 2 more, including Boston, which was probably the coolest thing I've ever done. And but what made that really special for me, and I didn't even really think of it this way because it was in my childhood, but my dad reminded me when I was training for my first marathon that when I was born, both of my feet were turned in. And so I had, as a kid, I actually slept with leg braces. And I had these special shoes that I wore too as a kid that had torque heels to kind of get the bones, to move back outward so it was more normal alignment. And he was like, never did I think for 1 second that you would be running a marathon one day. So that was kind of cool for him to remind me of that. And look, I'm not a very fast guy, but I ran Boston in like 3:24, I ran Jacksonville in 3:24 and ran Boston in 3:43. And so for a slow guy, that was pretty good. And that's when I said, I'm done. I'm hanging it up, and I'm going to run 3 or 4 miles a day after that, and no more of this 26 mile stuff.
I completely understand that. I drive the marathon on 77 every day, so I don't need to actually run it to make it happen. We were talking about interesting times. There's never a dull moment, but spare time for you. I got a couple of small kids, newly married a few years ago. So what is life like away from here for Mike Hill?
Yeah, listen, there's not a lot of spare time. That's just the reality, right? And so working in this business is a lifestyle, and we talk about it as a staff. Is just you have to love what you do to do this because, again, it bleeds at the weekends. The games are on weekends, weeknights, practices, recruiting weekends. It never really ends, right? And so there is not a lot of spare time. But when I do have that opportunity, I love to spend it with my family. And I do have 2 younger children, and then I have an older son, Luke, who is in Gainesville. He's actually wrapping up working on his college degree there. And so whenever we can get together and spend time together, that's when I'm happiest. And I'm really happy if we're at our mountain house. We go up to Blowing Rock. It's a home that I bought actually 10 years ago when I was still in Gainesville.
You just knew you were coming here.
Right? I just had a hunch, right? I mean, it was kind of crazy because, I couldn't stand the Florida heat. And I lived in it for 24 years. And so I used to vacation in the mountains and, and just fell in love with it. And I'm like, one day I'd love to buy a house up here and be able to get to it when I can. And so back in 2013, bought this home. And then, 5 years later, I got this job, which was just complete serendipity. It's an hour and 45-minute drive. I still don't get there as much as I'd like to because we have stuff every weekend. But, I can get up there for 24 hours and it's actually reasonable, And so that's, again, just being together as a family, spending time together. I also really like to cook. I love to grill. I've got an outdoor kitchen with an egg and a gas grill and a hibachi and
So what's the go-to meal on the
couple
grill?
of taps, So it depends. I like to smoke a Boston butt on there, but also salmon on a cedar plank. I love to grill steaks. I'm a big steaks fan. Don't listen to all
Seems
that.
like this podcast needs to move to your backyard next time.
I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of that, So
Summertime at least.
yeah, we'll do summertime, right? So I really do enjoy cooking and cooking out. I just don't get to do it very much.
I saw the AFC Richmond shirt as we were walking in here earlier. So is Ted Lasso, unfortunately the show has ended after 3 years, but was that the go-to show? Is there a show you're watching here maybe when you get that late night and time to sit back and relax for a little bit?
I love Ted Lasso. It's like definitely one of my all-time favorites. Just such a tremendous show. And I actually have a jacket that my son Luke gave me for Christmas last year that I wore in today. And one of my favorites for sure. I don't know he can top that gift, But right now I'm actually, sometimes I'll watch things on a plane when we travel.
Yeah.
So I've been watching Peaky Blinders, which is a really good show. I'm enjoying that a lot. But, there are a million shows I've started and I've watched like 2 episodes, and I don't have a lot of time to watch, shows. If I'm usually watching our games, maybe watching other games, and if, like you said, if it's a late night or a plane, then I can catch something on maybe Netflix.
Know that feeling here. Now, if you could play on one Charlotte team, now maybe you'd be Nick Scudder's backup on the track team with what we heard, but what would it be for you if you could be playing sports here at Charlotte?
I've passed Nick Scudder a few times on the Greenway running, going the opposite direction. Trust me, it was not because I caught up to Nick Scudder. I'm not sure any of our coaches would want me on their team, right? I wish I were a great basketball
Younger
player.
Mike Hill.
I loved basketball and tennis as a kid. Those are the 2 sports that I played. Again, not well enough to play at the collegiate level, but basketball has always been my passion, my favorite sport, and again, tennis as well. So probably one of those 2,
Well, you talk about getting athletics and you couldn't play in college. I was one, in broadcasting because I was not Deja and was not good enough in the actual sports world, so you wanted to find another way in. What led you into the athletic department world?
Well, I grew up in a college town. I grew up in Clemson, South Carolina, and Clemson is a small college town, and there was really not a whole lot else to do except either go out on Lake Hartwell or go watch the Tigers play. And so, men's basketball, women's basketball, football, baseball, wrestling, when they had it, swimming and diving, tennis, soccer. I used to go to all of it, and I fell in love with it. And so I knew at a young age I was certain I wanted to work in college athletics. And, I'm really lucky that I figured that out at such a young age because people at that point hadn't quite figured out that it was a career field. And so I went to school. I kind of whisper this on this campus. I did go to Chapel Hill. I know our fans hate that. I'm sorry. I went to Chapel Hill, okay? But I did go to Chapel Hill on a scholarship. And it was actually a Jefferson Pilot teleproduction scholarship because I thought I might go into broadcasting as well.
Good decision by you not to.
So, it was a great experience for me there, and I immediately went to the athletic department to find a job as a freshman. I remember going there, interviewing for a job actually in their communications department, and didn't get the job. They had like 8 student assistant positions, and they had a lot of returners. They said, well, come back next year. So I did. Didn't get a job again, which really pissed me off. So I came back in December, and they're like, all right, you can work for us. So I worked for 2.5 years, in the Dean Dome,
Yeah.
and it was such a cool experience. I used to work, 30 hours a week in there, not because I had to, just because I'd never left.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to be around it. You got Dean Smith literally down the hallway, across the hallway, Anson Dorrance, all these great coaches, and just being around it. Mac Brown had just been hired as the head football coach for the first time before he left for Texas. So that's where I really got hooked on it, and I knew at that point I wanted to pursue a career in athletic administration.
Yeah, last thing before we get into what's going on with this university right now, it is the holiday time. So what's the favorite Mike Hill holiday tradition?
Again, it centers around food because that's what it's. That's why I love Thanksgiving. Honestly, Thanksgiving is about like food and watching football and basketball. And there's not a lot of pressure about gift giving. But I really like to cook, as I mentioned earlier. And one of my favorite things that I like to make at the holidays is a creamed corn, which my grandfather, who lived in Charlotte, taught me how to make. So he used to grow. He had a beautiful garden. He lived on Commonwealth Avenue. He used to grow Silver Queen corn. And so he would showed me how to slice it off the cob, to kind of scrape the cob, to milk the cob, and then all the other ingredients you put in it. And so I've taken it and sort of modified it a little bit, and it's now sort of a requirement that I make the cream corn at the holidays.
All right, I think we've learned a lot here about Mike Hill behind the scenes here. Well, now let's look at what people are seeing, and that's what's going on the field, court, track, whatever it may be, and brought up men's soccer. Just coming off their first AAC championship. I know we're with you for football. I think it was a home game. Then you hopped on a plane to head out to Dallas. We see them beat SMU in a thrilling game. What was that moment like to see the first conference championship for this school in the AAC?
It was so cool. I mean, it's hard to win championships. Women's basketball won one a couple of years ago. We won 8 conference championships last year in Conference USA, which was a school record for Conference USA titles. And so it's so hard to do, though. And for our men's soccer program to take that step was huge. I mean, we've got obviously tremendous tradition in that sport, and Kevin Langen and his staff have done a tremendous job, continuing that state of excellence. Regular NCAA tournament team, but it's sort of been elusive here recently to be able to win a league title and to go on the road to play SMU, who was the number 1 seed in the tournament and the number 2 ranked team in the country, by the way, and to go beat them in front of a hostile crowd 2-1 was really special. And I think one of my favorite moments, besides seeing our coaching staff and our players celebrate and just the pure joy that they were experiencing, was a couple of weeks later was on a conference-wide Zoom call with all the presidents, chancellors, and ADs in our league, and Commissioner Oresco acknowledged all of the conference champions in the fall, and he pointed out that we were the first new school this year to win an American Conference championship. So Chancellor Gaber and I enjoyed that little factoid that Mike shared with everybody.
I brought up Nick Scudder earlier. Now, we could spend the whole show just going over records that he has set here, whether it's himself or obviously with the university. But top 5 finish for him, AAC individual championship. We got NCAA regional appearances coming up. Not only about Nick, but the track and field team as a whole and the accomplishments we've seen there.
Yeah, they've been dominant. I mean, the track and field program on the men's and the women's side has just been incredibly impressive, and led by our head coach, Bob Olson, who has won Conference Coach of the Year 33 times, and he's not that old. I mean, it's unbelievable. But, between indoor, outdoor, I mean, the men's and the women's, and then the cross-country program, Joe Lynn is our head cross-country coach, works with Coach Olson, and has done a fantastic job. Both our men's and women's teams this year finished second in the American. They won the league titles the previous year, and really proud of their performance in the league championships this year. But Nick Scudder, I mean, he's special. He's won 3 straight conference championships individually. That's incredibly difficult to do. He's also a fantastic student and just a great young man. And so, he went on to nationals after winning the conference championship and placing in regionals to go on and finish in the top 30 in the country and gets an All-America label for that. And so we're really proud of him. I think he's only the 2nd runner in our program's history on the men's side to earn All-America honors. So extremely proud of Nick and proud of our cross-country programs and our track and field programs.
Looking at football, first year of Biff Poggi, obviously a program I see up close and personal throughout the season, and I can just speak on it, Mike, of I know 3-9, but to me, just about every single game this team was there. Injuries, I've been here all 11 years of football. I've never seen a team as depleted as this team got near the end of the season. So record-wise, maybe not the improvement, but I know for me personally, it seemed like this program was taking strides. What did you take away year one of Biff Poggi's tenure here at Charlotte?
The same perspective that you have. 3-9 is not where we want to be. Biff would be the first one to tell you, and I'll be right behind him in the line to agree with that. Not our goal by any stretch, but at the same time, we were in so many games this year, and there are no moral victories, right? But in terms of progress, you look at where we were a year ago versus where we were this past season, and there's really no comparison, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We were ranked, I think, 130th in the country out of 131 teams in FBS defensively, and we jumped about 60 spots. We were, ask the Gators, ask Maryland, how it was to play the Niners. We led Maryland at the half on the road. We're tied at the end of three quarters. Florida, we're in the red zone 3 times.
Yeah.
We were down 19-7.
2 through 4 in that game.
We did. Second, third, and fourth quarters, we outgained them. They kicked a field goal late in the game. They had, 4th and goal at the 1, and they elected to kick a field goal because we had a couple of goal line stands. So my point is, and not just in those 2 games against, the ACC Big Ten opponents, but, in almost every single game, it was a ball game. And so that's called growth, right? And it's not where we want to be, and I know we all want to win. No one wants to win more than Biff and I do. But you can see strides, and it's very encouraging. And obviously, recruiting is going extremely well. Excited about what the future holds for our football program.
And just coming out this week, obviously the schedule for next year. We don't know dates and all that yet of the conference games, but still, I know part of that going to the AAC is the teams that are coming in here. Now, personally, first I look at road trips and see where we're going, which I like that as well.
Yeah.
But what'd you make of the 2024 slate we have here, especially with ECU making its first trip here, UAB we've seen, but Tulane we know is really good, and also USF making the return trip here.
It's an exciting schedule. I mean, I think both home and away. It's again, not an easy schedule. We knew in the non-conference, we go to Chapel Hill to play the Tar Heels. We go to Indiana, go to Bloomington.
Which, full disclosure, my nephew is going to be on the Tar Heels, but I will be there.
We're going to try to hang an L on him, okay? We're going to try to hang an L on him, but that is awesome that he has that opportunity. And then we have Gardner Webb here at home, and we opened with James Madison, who pretty good this year, right? So that's a big game as well. But the league schedule, I mean, for us to have ECU here to see if we can extend that to a 2-game win streak after getting our first ever conference win on the road in Greenville this year. You've got Tulane, who, was undefeated in the regular season. They lost in the conference championship game. Previous year beat Southern Cal in the Cotton Bowl. That's a big game for us. And then South Florida and UAB. Those are all big brands, big names to come into Jerry Richardson Stadium. And then on the road, some great trips. I mean, who doesn't love to go to Memphis? I mean, let's.
I've never been there, so that's one I'm definitely looking forward to.
Yeah, we're going to go go to Rendezvous, get us some barbecue for sure. Hit up Beale Street, and we go to the Naval Academy, and
that's exciting.
I've never been to a football game at Navy. I've been to Annapolis. It's absolutely beautiful. It's an incredible experience for people who visit. So. And then we also, of course, go to Rice and to FAU. So basically, we're returning all 4 games that we had at home this year. The conference schedule was juggled some because of SMU's departure and Army's addition, which is why we didn't know for sure in football who we were going to play until this week.
And for fans, if you want to go to Rice, by the way, Houston there. So last year the World Series was there. So me and Al, we didn't get into the World Series. I wasn't going to fork over that money, but we had a good time out there outside the ballpark in Houston. And, of course, with the football, Tim Brewster, new addition to the coaching staff. And people can always check out online. That's constantly changing. And as we speak right now, who knows what is happening in the transfer portal. Getting into basketball, we'll bring in Deja here just in a couple minutes. And let's start with the women's basketball team. Coach Carrick and Swagger obviously done a heck of a job with this program for a long time. You got the Niner women coming off the win against Wake very recently. What have you made of their start here in non-conference play?
Well, I see a lot of growth and a lot of progress in a short amount of time. And so there's some new pieces, new additions to join. Returners like Deja, but a team that's fun to watch. I drove to Winston-Salem to watch us play against Wake Forest, and it was really, we deserved to win. We were the better team that night, and look. Deja was on the bench with 2 fouls in the first 90 seconds. I'm like, ooh, okay, how are we going to do this? But you know what? I thought it was a grow-up game for our team because the rest of the players had to figure out, okay, how are we going to score without Deja on the floor? And so just to see that connectedness and to see the offensive flow and defensively, I think we've got a chance to be really, really good. So there's a lot of upside to this team, and I love Kara and how she runs her program, and they're a lot of fun to be around and a lot of fun to watch.
And right now, women's basketball 4-0 home record as we move forward to have the game coming up Davidson next Thursday that you can get ready for as a 2 o'clock Minner home at 1 o'clock on Friday. And with the men's side, I know you were up there in Durham. I can see you right behind there on the bench there on TV. But Coach Fern and what he's done so far, the exciting brand of basketball I think we've seen here inside Halton Arena. Some tough losses. Duke, Davidson was a thrilling back-and-forth game. But what have you taken away there on the men's side?
Well, again, what I see is a team that's come together under a guy that you can tell he's been a head coach before. Guy coached for 12 years in the pros in Australia, and just a sense of calm that he's brought to the program in a really difficult circumstance when we had the coaching transition this summer, not a typical time to lose your head coach. And he's really held that group together and developed those guys. And we're playing a little differently than we had in the past. I mean, there's certainly some things we continue to do, both offensively and defensively, but there are also some significant differences. And you can see it just in terms of how we play, the excitement level, and also the numbers. I mean, I look at KenPom every day, and where we are in terms of offensive and defensive efficiency and tempo. I think, again, this team has great upside, and he and I talked about this preseason. This is a pretty tough non-conference schedule that we have, and we're going to Richmond this weekend. It's another tough game, of course, and so we got to return the game down at Stetson, who we handled really well at home.
Beat UCF, I think, earlier in the year.
They did. They beat UCF earlier, and so my point is this: anytime you go on the road, it's difficult, right? And so a couple more challenges for sure on the schedule, and then we get into the league schedule, and this league's outstanding: FAU, Memphis, Tulane, SMU, others, Wichita, on and on and on. But he and I talked about how we felt like by conference play, and certainly by the middle of conference play, we could hit our stride. And I think the same holds true for Kara's team. Is the non-conference is there to build you and prepare you for your conference schedule. And both of these teams have gone out and scheduled opponents that are going to help us get there.
We'll talk about Kara's team, and Mike, I'll hand it to you here as we welcome in redshirt junior Deja Lawrence, who is just the growth I've seen from freshman year to where she is now is very impressive and incredible to see what she's been able to do. But, Mike, I'll let you take over here with Deja.
Yeah, thanks. So, Deja, it's great to have you here this morning. Thanks for joining us. And we were just talking as we were walking up the stairs here in the library about what her exam schedule is, and she doesn't have an exam. She's working on a certificate. Deja, why don't you explain to our audience sort of where you are academically and what your academic pursuits are?
Yeah, so on the court, I'm considered a redshirt junior, but I've been here for 4 years. I recently did graduate in May with undergrad in business administration with a concentration in organizational management, and now I have 2 years of eligibility. So right now I'm currently working on my entrepreneurship and innovation certificate, and then with my last year, I'll use those credits to finish off my MBA. So I've been here for a while.
Well, it's impressive. I told Bobby, I said, you're going to have a PhD by the time you're done around
for
here.
Sure. Halfway there.
It's awesome. We're really proud of you. And I think, the entrepreneurship piece of it is interesting to me because I know you actually have an NIL arrangement with some alums who are entrepreneurs,
yes, sir.
At the guys at 704 Shop.
Yes,
So,
sir.
That was really cool to see. Talk about your experience there in NIL with NIL and 704.
Yeah, 704, I think I've been working on that deal for probably a couple years now. A lot of people don't know that. Me and Chris, we've been really close the last couple years, just getting to know each other. He come to a lot of games. I've been shopping at 704 Shop since I moved to Charlotte, probably, since they become a thing. So really my freshman year, I learned a lot about 704. And I just started, shopping there. I would see Chris around. I'm like, oh, you're part owner of 704. And then we will talk here and there. He'll come to the games. And I actually got a chance to shadow him this past summer. And through there, he asked me about the brand ambassador, and I said, of course. Like, I would love to be a brand ambassador for a brand that I wear all the time. All of my close friends know, give me a gift from 704 Shop. Any gift. It can be a candle, a shirt, a hat, anything from 704. I just love the quality of their anything. I love the quality of their brand and just the people that they are. They give so much to the community. They're such great people, and I just love being around them. So 704 has definitely been my top brand, my favorite brand to partner with, and I just can't wait for what we have in store for the future.
So how does it feel to see yourself on a giant billboard in Charlotte Douglas Airport?
You know, that was kind of crazy. We were going to Puerto Rico, and at first I see myself on the screen. I said, oh, wait, that's me on the screen. And then one of my coaches, she said, you know, you have like a billboard in here. I said, a what? She said, you have like a poster billboard? I said, no way. That we seen one with, I can't remember his name, but they had another one of him in the 704. And I was like, we have to go find it. So we went to go find it, and the next thing you know, I'm like, oh my goodness, like that is me. I was taking pictures in front of it. There was a lot of people like, oh my gosh, that's you. Can I get a picture with you? Can I get a picture with it? So seeing that in the airport was just so amazing. I'm still in awe. Oh, every time I see it, it's just like, OMG, like that's crazy, literally.
Well, you know, and for our listeners, for their awareness, 704 Shop now has a store in the Charlotte Douglas
Yes.
Airport, which is fantastic because now it provides an opportunity for Niners to buy Niner gear in the airport,
Yes.
which has been a long time coming. And for our alums, you know, for Jerry and for Scott and for Chris, who are behind the men behind 704 Shop, to have that opportunity to open up, you know, a location there is really special. And
Yes,
for our
it is.
fans to be able to see our brand, and for
Yes.
millions of travelers to see our brand and to see your face on a billboard. You
For
know?
sure.
So, you know, pivoting from NIL to just, you know, your basketball career here, you know, I remember when you started out as a freshman and you get sort of limited minutes, right? But you've grown so quickly, and talk about your experience as a player here under Kara and how you've grown.
Yeah, my experience here it's been a journey. Like anybody else, you want to come in and play automatically, but it wasn't like that for me. And I had to work hard. I had to work really hard. I had a lot of meetings with all the coaches, like, what do I need to do to get on the court? And Coach Kara would say, your time is going to come. You know, your time is going to come. Just keep working, keep doing, we like to say, work in the dark. Just keep doing that. Your time is going to come. So eventually, I just kept doing that, keeping my head down, doing all the extra work. And eventually, my time came last season. That was my big stride for me, the hugest stride that I've never seen anybody take, honestly. But the opportunity came, and I just took advantage of it. And Coach Kara has been a huge supporter for me since before I even committed here. Me and Coach Kara have had a relationship back to my years in middle school. She's been recruiting me since the 8th grade, so we go way back, way back. But just her belief in me, even when times was rough for me, she was still there. She still believed in me and my abilities, and just playing for her is great, but it's also challenging because she challenges me to be a better person, leader, and player on and off the court every single day.
Well, she does. She pushes all of her players, but
Yes.
it comes from the heart, right? She wants to
Yes.
make you the best player you possibly can be, and
For sure.
clearly you have made a huge jump. I mean, there's no question about that, and obviously sort of the focal point. You've got to face defenses now that are, I'm sure, always keying in on you. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, sometimes it takes me a little bit to adjust, but I try to find my teammates because I know they're going to bring a lot of attraction to me. So now my teammates are going to be open, and just adjusting. It might be little things, coming off screens tight, setting up reads. It's just all little things. But I know a lot of teams have been bringing 3 on me, so it's just like now I got to find that open teammate. And my team has been doing a great job just being open and being available, and actually knocking down great shots. I know before it was just Deja, 10 seconds up on the shot clock, go create. But now I can pass it out to my teammates and have confidence that everybody else is going to make a play now. So just making my teammates available and doing everything that I can. Sometimes I just got to get out the way, too. If I know there's 2 people on me, I'm just going to stand right here in this corner, and y'all go run the play. And now I have 2 defenders just worried about me, and they go make a play. So.
Well, and right, so we've seen that. We've seen the growth of the team and their growing confidence and their ability, you know, for others to score and not have to rely on you every possession to do that, of
Right.
course. So can you explain to our audience what it means to be able to take on great opponents in your non-conference schedule like NC State, and, of course, we played Wake Forest, we played West Virginia, we played some Power 5 schools, and what that does to help prepare you as a player and the team as you get ready to go into your first American season?
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier. It just helps us prepare for conference. And it's also a baseline to see where we are and what we need to work on. Playing those big schools, it just helps us understand who we are, whether that's good or whether that's bad, what we need to learn, where we need to grow. It helps us see, just like I just said, like what we need to work on. It's very fun playing against those schools as well because we don't get a chance to play at a Wake or NC State or West Virginia often, and they have a lot of great players. Sometimes you're starstruck, like, oh, like you're, because they get the coverage. So it's a great baseline just to see where we are, and it helps us get tough for conference because we can be like, we've been here before. We've seen these situations when we played against Wake or when we played against NC State. So it just helps us really get prepared for conference play.
You had a special summer. You were overseas, having a chance to represent the red, white, and blue. What was that like?
It was amazing. Traveling was long, though. Getting there took me 3 flights to get there. That was the longest part. But going to Poland was an amazing experience. It was something that I would never take for granted. And it's something that happened unexpectedly for me. I think I found out on a Monday, and I had to make a decision by that night, and I was out that Friday. So it was great. I got to play with great players all over the world. Got to play against China, Kenya, the Netherlands. So just playing against top opponents all over the world. And 3v3 is different. It's fast paced, but it's more of an isolation game. I love the isolation, the one-on-one. And I just love that type of competitiveness, the fast pace. And I got to play with a WNBA player, Zaya Cook, a top player at Syracuse, the Age of Fair, and also another top player that plays overseas, Akira DaCosta. So just being able to play with people with much more exposure and more basketball IQ and knowledge than me, it was just amazing to just go out there and do what I love and play in Europe with a great talent. It was such an amazing experience.
Well, you performed really well, and you represented, not just Niner Nation, but our nation really well. So we were proud of you, and it was fun. It was fun to follow you for sure. You, in terms of leadership, also have taken on a major role with SAC, which is the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. What are some of the initiatives that SAC is working on this year, and how have you enjoyed that role?
Being the president of SAC is something that I've thoroughly enjoyed. I've been a part of SAC since my sophomore year, I would say. I was just a member, and then I transformed into the executive role. So I was on the executive role for 2 years, and now this year is my first year as president. It has been very fun. One of my main goals this year was to get us athletes to understand that we're more than just an athlete. So certain initiatives that I wanted to do were like mental health. We have our mental health awareness games. Just each sport has a game dedicated just for mental health. We do canned food drives, but we also have a lot of programs like financial literacy, resume, cover letters, things that is going to prepare us athletes for life after, because the ball does not bounce forever. Whatever sport you play will not last forever. So just truly finding our identity outside of our sport, and that's very important to me.
Well, you do great work. That's an important organization on our campus, and really the leaders of SAC here at Charlotte have played a role at conference level and the national level for several years, and typically rank very, very highly when it comes to community service hours and all the great work that you do. So thank you for what you're doing and your leadership of that as well. So I have to ask you this before we wrap up. Just talk about your experience with Kara and what it's like to play for Kara, and then I'm going to ask you if you have an impression of Kara. I'd love to see it.
Well, first, playing for Kara, as I mentioned earlier, is great. She's a phenomenal coach. I love her as a coach, a second mom. She always pushes me to be better every single day, whether that's on the court, in the classroom, a leader, a player. She's always pushing me to be the best me because she has a lot of potential in me, and she sees greatness in me. So without her, I don't know where I would be in this collegiate world, honestly. And my best impression of Coach Kara, I can give you one that she says to me a lot. So when she gets mad, she starts clenching her jaw. Every time she gets mad, she starts clenching her jaw. And then she looks at me, she said, "You have to be better. You just have to be better. You're our leader. Everybody's looking at you. You have to be better, Deja." Then she just walks away. She starts pacing back and forth. She's still clenching that jaw. And then she's so funny.
That's
she's
amazing.
So funny.
I'm going to start using that with our staff.
You have to be
should.
better.
You got to be better.
You have to be
Darren,
better.
you got to be better.
Literally. And as soon as she says that, it's a 360 flip because she starts giving you that mom look. It's like, oh, gosh, yeah, I'm about to get it.
She's got an intense stare if
Yes,
if
she
she's in that
does.
moment for sure.
She
So
does.
I love watching her coach. She
Yes.
coaches with passion, with
Very
fire,
passionate,
and she's
yes.
a really really good coach.
Yes,
I
she
mean,
is.
I've sat behind the bench before and watched her draw up plays. She knows what she's doing.
Oh, she's fantastic at drawing up plays, especially like in the shot clock, in the game. Her playmaking ability and drawing up plays is amazing.
It's elite.
Yeah, it definitely is, for
It
sure.
is. Well, thank you, Deja, for joining us, and thanks for all you're doing, and good luck this season. Can't wait to watch you guys win a bunch of games in the American.
Of course, thank you for having me.
You bet.
And I was going to ask her, since you were going to be a basketball player or something, is there, if another coach called you and said, Deja, we need you out on the field, is there another sport you think you could, you'd love to play?
I used to play softball when I was younger, so
Okay.
and I'm gonna hit a boo. So if she can give me some lessons real quick, so I
There
can
you
go
go.
get on the softball field.
And I know there's not a lot of spare time, but maybe when you're doing 3 flights to Poland, what does Deja try to do to get away from what's going on in life?
Sleep. Literally any chance that I get, I'm gonna take a nap.
That
Literally.
is one thing, Mike, I've never been able to do, sleep on our planes. That is not a skill that I have. Well, Mike, here's we wrap things up and got some couple fan questions here we'll get to. And one is the Evergreen update. People can go to Charlotte, evergreen.com. There's a lot of information there. But where are we now in this process as we continue to look to build up things here at Charlotte?
Sure. So, Evergreen, for our fans who aren't aware, represents our facility master vision. And so it encompasses all of our campus athletics facilities. And we have a phase 1 right now that includes multiple projects. And the one that gets the most attention because of the size of the project, of course, is the football stadium expansion. We also have a softball complex that we're building with lockers and offices. We have a soccer lacrosse stadium on the board as well for that. And then basketball locker room renovations, among other things, and a baseball clubhouse. So those are all part of phase 1. That's $100+ million worth of projects, and that was priced 2 years ago. So that means it's probably $150 million worth of projects. But the football piece, we're excited about. We've raised about $62 million of the $81 million originally estimated to expand the facility. We'll get some new numbers here soon on that. We are in the design process right now. We just had a meeting this week. We'll have another one here shortly to kind of refine what this might look like. We also completed a study with Legends. Legends is a group that was actually co-founded by the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Yankees. And their specialty is to do market research to help you assess, if you're renovating or building a new stadium, how many premium seats you need that you can actually sell, what should the pricing be, what's the market. And so that research came back after about 1,500 plus responses to a survey, which is outstanding. They'd work with a lot of major programs, Oklahoma, Florida, others. I've worked with them at UF as well, and they felt like our response level was outstanding. And so we're using that data now to help inform us about what is the stadium going to look like and what do we need to offer in terms of suites, loge boxes, patio club, because people have different levels of disposable income based on how old they are, right? If you're a young alum, you probably can't afford a suite, but, you might be able to afford a lesser investment if it gives you some amenities beyond just sitting in a regular seat in the stadium. So we'll have tiers of opportunities based on what people want to invest in the football project. So, but excited about the momentum of that and working hard on all of those projects.
You mentioned baseball and improvements there and stuff. Great year last year, baseball and softball. So where's your excitement here as we get ready to fire it up here in the spring with those two sports?
Well, look, I love being around those coaches. They bring, so much energy and enthusiasm and have built programs that are, or winners now. I mean, both of them made the NCAA tournament. Softball won their first ever regular season Conference USA championship last year and made their first ever NCAA tournament appearance, so we're super proud of that. In baseball, their second NCAA tournament appearance in 3 years. They won the conference tournament. Woody and I were talking just the other day. We had a ring ceremony at the Chancellor's home to celebrate our championship teams. And, late in the season in baseball, I think we were maybe below 500 with about 6 or 7 games left. And so, but our guys just kept battling. And what happened? We end up going to regionals. We get sent to the number 3 national seed, Clemson, and we eliminate Clemson, on their home field from the NCAA tournament. So really proud of the job Woody did. And with softball, they made it to the regional finals as well against Duke and competed really, really hard. I'm still upset about one of the calls at the plate.
I remember that.
catcher interference was not a good call. I can't get fined now. There's got to be a statute of
Yeah, there is.
limitations, right? And so, and I look at the schedules that they both put out, and they are loaded again. These two coaches do not shy away from great competition, much like Kara and women's basketball. And you look at the baseball schedule, for example. They've got at home we have Virginia Tech, we have West Virginia, we have Maryland. These are all NCAA tournament teams. These are 3-game series. We've got Clemson. We're going to play in Charlotte. We obviously have ECU with the new conference schedule, which is exciting. And then softball has a loaded schedule as well. I mean, she's playing a bunch of ACC teams. We're going down to Florida State to open the season. Florida State's really good, top 5 typically. So, yeah, I get fired up about our bat and ball sports and can't wait to see them play.
Mike, appreciate the time today here in the first Open Mic podcast, and I look forward to talking here in the future.
No, you bet. Thanks so much, Bobby. Appreciate it. Thank you, Deja.
Thank
All right.
you.
There you go, the first edition here of the Open Mic podcast.